Hey, this is Bryce and welcome back to my YouTube channel, Jack of Trades. In this video, I'm going to go over some of the mod parts that I made for my Losi Promoto-MX. I couldn't help myself, so I started designing some parts and threw them on and took the bike out for a spin, and it actually held up pretty well. On this bike, what have I changed so far? So, I have a new torso, which supports the GoPro camera. And it basically interfaces with the Losi Promoto-MX the same way that the original torso does, except it's a rigid 3D printed torso with a little quarter 20 mount for the camera. This is just an idea to kind of give like that one-to-one POV perspective when running the bike, but I'm actually going to get away from this because the camera is severely exposed and this camera is actually taking some damage. It's got some road rash on it. So what I want to do is move the camera back down to his torso down here where it's below the head and torso and a little bit better protected. And then what else did I do? I put on these nice little rollers, but these aren't just normal rollers. These are ball bearing supported rollers. So they're a little bit smoother. Not that I really notice a difference in the kind of driving that I do, but it's just, why not? So I have about 3 or 4 packs through these parts so far, and they're holding up well. I'm not under the illusion that these are going to be as good as the original injection molded parts, but for 3D printed parts and for the limited use that I put them through, I think they're doing just fine. So then let's talk about the elephant in the room, my long swing arm. So I basically went from, I think it was a 135mm swing arm to a 200mm swing arm, 50% increase. I wanted to kind of try to maintain the suspension performance in doing that, so I had to also shift the lower mounts for the rear shock back a little bit by the same ratio. So if the arm increased in length by 50%, I moved that shock mounting point back by 50% as well. And then in doing that, you also have to change the geometry on this lower link. This is the frame link. It goes from the swing arm to the frame, and it's part of that rising rate suspension setup. But what I kind of discovered, and maybe this is obvious, but I don't ride dirt bikes, and I'm not really familiar with rising rate suspension setups, is that as you shorten this, as you change the length of this link, it actually adjusts your ride height on the bike. So it doesn't impact your suspension travel, it just impacts your ride height. And so I actually made a couple of different lengths to play around with that, and what I discovered was basically every 2mm that you change, you would adjust the ride height by 1/4 inch. And I've got some photos kind of showing those changes. But I took it out for a spin, took it out to the dirt, ran it did well. It obviously has a much larger turning radius, so but in the dirt you can kind of you can get it to kick around. It's more noticeable in the asphalt when you're running on street. It's harder to do your turnarounds, but you know it's still fun and it holds up well and it looks cool. So I'm happy with it. I think I'm gonna do a print in black or silver, just to kind of make it a little more, I guess, quote unquote realistic looking. And I might do the rollers in black as well. But thus far, I am happy with the parts. I have some other things I want to work on the bike. I want to move the camera down. Actually, I've been doing a lot of street running, and you can get these bikes to kind of do donuts where they lean over and they just spin around, and then they'll pick themselves up and kind of pop off the ground. So there's almost kind of like I think there's almost kind of like a stunt bike aspect to running these. I got some new tires that came in as well, so I'm going to see about trying to swap out the tire. I'm going to try some techniques to unglue. I've never had good luck with ungluing tires, but somebody in the comments in one of the other videos had mentioned boiling them in water. Or not boiling, soaking them in hot water, not boiling water. But so I'm going to give that a try. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and switch over to the footage of these parts getting installed and kind of showing the different features of them, and we'll get into some running footage. Thanks for tuning in and watching. Take care. Bye. Alright, so we've been working on some upgrades. Well, not really upgrades, just custom parts for the Losi Promoto-MX. The first that I have on here is this replacement torso. So I took this torso and kind of tried to make a replica of it to support a GoPro so we can get some good FPV footage. And so it uses the same mounting scheme with this pin. And that guy pops off, and there's little holes for the arms to go into. And then the GoPro mounts from down below with the 1/4 screw. Pretty straightforward. The shirt is able to zip up on it. That looks pretty cool. This probably won't last very long because this is very rigid, so in a crash this will probably break. And then also my camera is kind of the high point in this setup, so the camera will probably break as well. So my goal is to try to get some interesting FPV footage with this, but I'm not going to go bashing too hard with it because I don't want to break the camera. And then the latest off the printer is this new swing arm. So I'm calling this my 200mm swing arm. The original swing arm is 135mm from base of your pivot to the center of the slot. So I extended that by 65mm. And to try to maintain the same kind of suspension geometry, I also extended this link out. The rear suspension on the bike is kind of complicated because it uses this rising rate suspension setup. So you've got this link here that goes to the frame. This also goes to the frame. It's kind of like a parallelogram, but not really, more like a trapezoid. And then the shock mounts that little pivot there. So if I want to kind of maintain the same relationship of the shock to the arm and how it kind of deflects and rebounds, then I have to my idea was to maintain the same ratio. So I extended that outwards by the same percentage that I extended the arm, which is about 50%. And then I'm using the same bell crank here, and then I actually have an extended frame link that's getting printed right now, so that'll extend out to here, and hopefully we'll see similar suspension performance. I don't know, we'll see. It's kind of a guess at this point. And the other thing I'm going to do on these links is I'm going to replace these brass bushings with bearings. I saw that somebody posted that on one of the Facebook sites, so I figured why not. I've got the bearings, so I'm going to go ahead and swap those out. So let's get into it. So the link is finished printing. There it is. So this is the stock link and the redesign link. So because it's 3D printed, I tried to make it a little more beefy because the materials aren't that durable. So there's our extended swing arm setup. Now we're just missing these leaning wheels. Once we get that, we're pretty good. I might go ahead and make a different link as well. Alright, so we got our lean bar rollers, which can accept bearings. That's really the only improvement I made to these is that you can accept bearings of them. So let's get these installed. That is our bike. Ready to go. Let's get some batteries charged and go run it. And the other elephant in the room, I got my hands on a Radio Shack Ricky Carmichael RC motorcycle. It's not new, it's used, but I have tested it and it actually works. I haven't driven it, I've just tested it on the bench. So I'm really looking forward to doing an unboxing and running of this video and maybe trying to compare the two bikes. I know that's kind of night and day, we're talking 20 years gap in technology, but I have seen these run, I've never run them, and I think they're pretty capable. I don't know, we'll see. Thanks for watching, bye.